Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Okay, thank you, ICT. Thank you. We have no opening announcements, and agenda item number 1. I have one apology from Councillor Ashley Mallon. Is there any more apologies from the floor, members? Okay, I don't see any lights on. Declarations of interest, members, are we content to request those as and when we go throughout the meeting? Okay, no objections? All right, thank you. Item 3 on the agenda tonight is to discuss the Party Leaders Forum, and I was going to hand over to Alderman Burns, who has requested this special meeting, to ask you to brief us, but I actually see a light on here from Alderman Moutry.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just at the outset of the meeting and to set some context, can I ask through you why the proposer of the motion has tabled this meeting tonight when it has no remit to change a decision of council, and that there's a considerable cost to ratepayers in tabling this meeting tonight when a rescinding motion has been tabled for the monthly meeting next Monday night, proposed by the SDLP, Councillor O'Hanlon, and seconded by Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Alderman Moutry. Well, I'll call Alderman Burns in to talk us through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for allowing us to have this meeting here tonight. The motion that Alderman Moutry is referring to was put in after this was requested. So it was, so that this meeting was requested first. So, and I make no apology for it. Lord Mayor, since the amalgamation of the 3 councils into one in 2015, the Party Group Leaders Forum has always been inclusive. That included the DUP, UUP, Sinn Féin and SDLP, as well as one member party, David Jones of UKIP, and also Alderman Paul Barry as the independent. It followed suit in 2019 after the election, where Alderman Barry was a member of that. And it was always inclusive, and it meant that party office or the staff of the council only had to meet once. This is going to duplicate the work that they have to do, because they're going to have to meet with the party group leaders as well as the other members. Now, it is called the Party Group Leaders Meeting or Forum, but there's you as Lord Mayor or the Lord Mayor's previous sit on it, so it's not all about party group leaders, because there is already somebody who sits on it who is not a group leader. This has been a sounding board. It's not a decision-making body, so I cannot understand why the 3 other councillors can't take part. It's simply for getting out messages to the different parties and groups, but it's also a sounding board for what things are going on within the council. Councillor Duffy at the committee meeting did say it was about saving money, but yet the money was taken away and given away, so it hasn't saved any money. So we have been asked, my colleagues and I, and I'm sure others have, it has been mentioned to out there once it would get out into the press, have been asked about this, and we can't understand. We can't give a reason as to why this has changed after 8 years of working well together. And that was more or less we wanted to hold this so that we could find out exactly why these 3 councillors are going to be put off this. And that's basically the outline of it, of why we want it. We would like to know why things have changed, that things that have been working so well after all these years, why it's now suddenly being changed. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Alderman Burns. And I won't get into the debate tonight as to how it actually went from confidential business into the public domain. It had to be one of the 41 councillors in this chamber that actually saw fit to do that. But that's a debate for another day, and one that I actually hold as the Lord Mayor of this chamber. I hold very valid confidentiality when something's in confidential business, whether members agree with me or not. If something comes before this chamber in confidential business, it should remain there and not leaked as and when suits certain individuals into the public domain. But that's all I will say on that point. Alderman Baxter.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And just on that point, I think it's important to note that it's not councillors who decide what goes into confidential business. This was done by council officers, and indeed it was the director that made that decision. I don't particularly agree with that decision. I think it could have been in the open forum, and I actually welcome the fact that it now is in the open forum. Although why it's done in this expensive meeting tonight, whenever we're going to rehash everything again on Monday night, when the penny finally dropped and a rescinding motion went in, because this meeting has no power to overturn any decision. But that just shows the lack of understanding, I think, of council standing orders. Well, that's what it does, because it's a very expensive meeting. When you see the officers sitting here tonight, officer time, director level, down, facilities managers and all that. Yeah. But I'm delighted that it's in the open forum, because the leaks to the press and the social media was very, very selective. And there's a lot of misinformation circulating. So let's set it out here, what actually it is. We have faced significant issues in this council. When we look at the COVID crisis over a few years, and the problems that caused for council and for officers and for the operational issues we had when we had to close play parks and cemeteries, was there a special meeting called by the Ulster Unionist Party? No. When we had the strikes and the council borough was upside down for weeks and weeks, was there a special meeting called by the Ulster Unionist Party? No. But what do they call a special meeting about? About going into line and forming a policy on a group leaders forum. And getting that policy in line with other councils. Now, I've done a bit of work on this in the background, and I've made it my business to contact other councils. So let's just see what other councils do. Mid-Ulster Council, independent members do not sit on party leaders forum. Belfast City Council, which is the largest council in Belfast and accounts for like 40% of Northern Ireland's population, they have to have 2 or more members in the chamber to sit on party group leaders. Newry and Mourne have to have 3 or more members. Lisburn and Castlereagh have to have 3 or more members. North Down and Ards have to have 2 or more members. Causeway Coast and Glen, you have to have 10% of the council chamber to be afforded a place on party group leaders. And in a 40-seat council, that means they'd have to have 4 councillors to have a place on the party leaders forum. But interestingly, Antrim and Newton Abbey have just changed their policy at the general meeting in May, just a few weeks ago. And I took the time to print out the minute from that meeting. And it's as follows. The policy for political party grouping representation for the incoming council and further terms should consist of a minimum of 2 members elected in that party name. On the proposal being put to the meeting, 30 members voted in favour, 9 against, and there were 0 abstentions. The proposal was declared carried. It was therefore agreed the positions of responsibility be allocated in accordance with Schedule 1 of the Local Government Act 2014 for Northern Ireland using the Hunt method, and that the policy for political party grouping representation should consist, and this is the important bit, of at least 2 in that party name. So given what the members to my left are saying tonight, that they wouldn't agree with that policy. Yeah, I do see them nodding in agreement. Well, who proposed that? That was proposed by Alderman Mark Cosgrove of the Ulster Unionist Party and seconded by Sinn Féin. So, you know, members over here saying this is a carve-up between DUP and Sinn Féin and ABC. Well, what is it in Antrim Newton Abbey? Is it a carve-up there? The full outrage, is, well, that's where it is. Different place. Every council in Northern Ireland has the same policy. Now I have to say, I think for Mana, I don't think have a group leaders forum. So that's one that is different. So we're just we're just now in line with that policy with every other council in Northern Ireland. So it's not about personalities. This meeting of party group leaders forum, it has no terms of reference. It has no votes. There's never a vote taken. And fundamentally, It's not a decision-making body. So it's not a decision-making body, but it's for group leaders. How can you be a leader in your own group? What the role that I have as a group leader, we have 13 members on this side. The group leaders meeting actually is a very small part of what happens. It's a channel, a conduit, if you want, that the council officers and the corporate management team use to channel information to the members. That's what the role is, and that's what it entails. And when you're 13 members, it's quite a busy role. When you're on your own, you don't have a role in that forum. What is the role? There is none, because you have no information to impart to anyone else. You're on your own. But that said, look, everybody's got a mandate and everybody needs their mandate respected. And everybody, all 41 members, it's not just members here, but all 41 members need that mandate respected. So there's a couple of solutions. There's a couple of solutions to this. And my first solution, and it's not up to me to do, but if the members that are independent members or single party representative want to form a group, whether that be 2 or whether that be 3, form a group, and our party will wholeheartedly 100% support you coming on to party group leaders and rotating your membership or whatever. And that way, as independent members, you can get the information. I think that's the way it is in the Assembly and the Assembly Commission. I think Jim Allister, the TUV leader, assigns himself sometimes to Ulster Units and sometimes the DUP through the Assembly Commission to get the information there. So there's precedent for it. So this meeting has been hyped up to something it's not. Because if the meeting was that important, I don't think, as a member here representing 13 people, and you know, it's been put out that this is the sounding board and this makes decisions, and I've seen an SDLP, statement saying that everything happens in group leaders. It doesn't. I wouldn't want that responsibility. And if the meeting ever got that status that the media wanted to have and members to my left wanted it to have, we wouldn't take part in it. It's simply an information gathering session that fundamentally does not have any votes taken, and fundamentally is not a committee or a decision-making body. But as I've said, if the members want to form a group, as happens in other places right across the United Kingdom, we would be quite happy to support that and let them sit on party group leaders on a rotational basis. Another solution, and one which we can give members food for thought, in the interests of unionist unity, and that's what this is, you know, being portrayed to be about, unionist unity. I put the hand out to our 2 unionist colleagues. If they want to join our party group, not as members of the DUP or not to take the DUP whip, but in terms of this and for the process of party group leaders, you've been more than welcome to attend our party group leaders meeting after the party group leaders meeting to discuss what's going forward, and let's move unionism forward unitedly. So there's two solutions there, and they're very, very easy. They're very, very easy to do. And so I'll just leave that. I'll leave that with you. But, you know, to have a special meeting tonight to try and, you know, have some sort of a DUP bashing session, I think is very unfortunate, because the last thing we wanted to do, and we didn't get into it in social media because of the confidentiality issue, we didn't get into it. But the last thing we need is for unions to be falling out in this chamber behind closed doors. So the hands out there, you're very welcome to come and join the group or form your own group, because I think it's very important that everybody's mandate's respected. And that's our idea as a party to try and fix this and have a resolution going forward. Instead of trying to make political points scoring points, try and move unionism together forward. Thank you.
Councillor Radcliffe.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. First of all, I'm pleased that this issue is at last being dealt with in an open way. Constituents deserve to know how their representatives vote on important issues. And I accept that when it comes to sensitive legal and commercial matters, there may need to be to hold proceedings behind closed doors. But I don't agree with the way this was handled. And I have to agree with Mark on that. Because of the way this matter was dealt with in the last meeting, much misinformation has been allowed to spread. The aspect which I find most offensive is a suggestion that this is all about money. It never was. Myself and other members affected offered to forgo payment, and this was previously rejected. Frankly, it came as a surprise to me that members received additional ratepayers' money for even serving in this forum. Those who have sought to portray this as a money-saving move should forgo thousands of pounds which they have claimed for themselves over years as party leaders. This has nothing to do with money. Sinn Féin were very clear that it was because there was too many unionists on the party leaders forum. As a bonus, they saw it as an opportunity to stick the knife in the SDLP. Sinn Féin talk about equality, but yet again, the mask often slips. At the last meeting, they brought forward a proposal to gerrymander the leaders' forum. They didn't like the fact that 2 unionists were there. They didn't like the fact that a nationalist voice, which wasn't apologist for IRA violence, was there. So they cut a backroom deal to deny the majority of unionism voters in Cúisir and the SDLP a voice. This undermined the democratic nature of the council. Some have asked why I should be in the forum as a sole TUV rep in this council. Let me address that. I was elected on a party manifesto, not just as an individual. Thousands of people across ABC voted for my party and to see me as their voice on the council. It is in the interests of democracy that the views of those ratepayers, which are as important as any other party or independent on ABC Council, are fairly represented. Rather than being exclusive, we should be seeking to be inclusive as possible of the views of constituents and bodies such as this. Sinn Féin are attempting to create a hierarchy of views on the council. It's anti-democratic and it's wrong. Lord Mayor, I conclude with one final point. In the face of this attempt to exclude and undermine unionist voices, I am calling for a demonstration of unionist unity. I am disappointed that the DUP have thus far supported Sinn Féin in removing the unionist majority from this forum. Along with erecting posters which said, "Let's build unionism," the DUP flyers in my area at the last election, the DUP supports greater unionist cooperation and unity. The DUP is the only party that can challenge Sinn Féin. Can I once again ask through the chair, how siding with Sinn Féin to remove unionists, firstly, is challenging Sinn Féin, secondly, fostering unionist unity, and thirdly, building unionism? I am disappointed that my attempts to address this matter in private before the last meeting were rebuffed by the DUP. I note that their group leader told the press that he wants to resolve the matter in private. Lord Mayor, the members knows that I attempted to do so. He also knows what his response was. Unionist councillors have a chance to put the good of unionism above narrow party interests. I call on all unionists, members to stand together in unity. I believe this is what those who sent us here want to see. In the name of equality, healthy democracy, and unionist unity, thank you.
Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Rather than get into a slagging match between interunionism, which seems to be going on at present in this chamber, I'm just going to keep my remarks solely to the item under discussion. The decision at the June council meeting represented a blatant carve-up between the DUP and Sinn Féin as they sought to exclude the SDLP, smaller parties and independents from party leaders' forum. It was a power grab aimed at stymieing debate and reducing the ability of others to hold the 2 largest parties to account. While Alliance was unaffected by the arrangement, we felt that it was important to stand up for maximum openness, transparency, diversity and inclusion. This is clear evidence, yet again, of the DUP and Sinn Féin acting to protect party political interest rather than working in the interest of our entire community. I would encourage both parties to reflect and, instead of choosing to only work with each other, that they scrap this carve-up and take an inclusive approach going forward by including all parties and independents on party leaders forum, which has been the case since the inception of ABC Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. And we have Councillor Catherine Nelson zooming in.
Is that me on, Councillor Tinsley?
Councillor Nelson, you're on.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, thank you, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I suppose, I mean, I find this evening's meeting disingenuous. A special meeting called days before a full council meeting is scheduled this coming Monday, and this issue is scheduled as an open item in that meeting. So tonight's meeting for me is a huge waste of ratepayers' money, but also a huge waste of our already overworked officers' time. But it's also disingenuous in its application. Councillor Ratcliffe, for example, has completely fabricated our stance, something the minutes can prove and something he should reflect on in line with the Councillor's Code of Conduct. But Councillor Ratcliffe is new and he's learning. So perhaps it is naivety, and hopefully tonight will be a learning curve for him. The party group's leader forum is used to discuss key issues. That's absolutely right. It's a sounding board. Information is shared through it. There are no votes, and nothing is achieved through this forum without consensus. Parties who have been given enough and a sufficient mandate by the electorate are represented on this forum, i.e. those that lead a group. It's in the name. The Chief Executive, who's with us tonight, has also agreed that he will keep representatives of all parties and none informed of the issues that are discussed during these meetings in the interest of openness and transparency. And in fact, that's something that our party sought assurances of, because we do respect the mandate of all, including individuals and independents. We will work with all parties on this forum. We will work with all parties outside this forum to make sure that our council works for all. But the Party Group Leaders Forum has been and is a forum for those who lead a party group.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe. Oh, I'm back on. Okay, Alderman Berry.
Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor, and to those who've spoke. Obviously, there has been some who have disagreed with tonight's meeting, but because we live in a democracy, that it's good that there's such a thing as a standing order there for such occasions like this. And Alderman Burns has made it clear from the outset that now that there was a rescinding motion in, this actually meeting here was called before there was a motion placed. But it is good to talk. It's good to have conversations. It's good to put things out in the air, because there were occasions in the last two meetings, in the governance resources and the full council meeting, where not all parties spoke in relation to this situation. So it's good now to get representation, and probably this is the first night where most parties have actually spoken in relation to their views as to the Party Leaders Forum. So that's welcome, and that's probably the start of the process. I don't wish to say too much tonight, Madam Lord Mayor, because I wish to speak more at length on Monday evening in relation to the rescinding motion. But I think it is important to note that from 2014, when Councillor Jones and myself were on the Party Leaders Forum, it was always the continual message from Sinn Féin that they didn't want the two unionists on the Party Leaders Forum. And in 2019, when myself was returned as the independent, in fact, I had to leave the meeting that particular night for it to be discussed in the Party Leaders Forum. And then there was unity within the forum, not by all parties, but by majority of the parties that particular evening, that I would remain on the Party Leaders Forum. So I know some people have said it's in the name and this council is doing this and this council is doing that. The fact is, from 2014, I was representative on the Party Leaders Forum because of the nature of that particular forum, and I welcomed that, and I thank the members there for that. And I believe it was important that we would go forward as one in unity, that we would be inclusive, that the council would try our best to build an inclusive council, that all voices were represented. The last thing I want to say is a duplication, because I know Councillor Seeley has stated in the last monthly council meeting, and she stated here tonight, that the Chief Executive and his officers can go back again and duplicate and pass on what was agreed or what was discussed or what was decided in a Party Leaders Forum. And to me, what's the big issue? What's the big problem? Three other members in the Party Leaders Forum. It's not a decision-making body. It's a very important sounding board.
and to save any duplication, to save any crosswire, and to go forward in an inclusive manner. I would have thought it would have been a lot easier without the allowance as well from the 3 members, as I stated in my previous proposal, that the 3 members would be included on it. I've heard so many people saying it's some people have said it's only a talking shop. Some councillors in this chamber have only said it's a talking shop, and others. But I still think it's important that the 3 voices are represented. It's of no surprise to me that Sinn Féin wants to bar out the minorities. That's of no surprise. That never was a surprise. Even though their SDLP voice they don't want on it as well. That's no surprise because it's their way or no way. So I'm not surprised by that. But I would just request before Monday night's meeting that possibly we can try and find a way forward and try and find a resolution to this for the council and for the good of the council, so that we can go forward together and that all voices are represented on it. And as I say, if it's not that important a committee and it's not a decision-making body, well then I don't see what all the fuss is about by allowing 3 other members on it to save out the duplication and to save out all the rest of the duplication that would come with it. I'm still getting calls from senior council officials in relation to matters. I'm happy to receive those calls, but I still think there's really no harm or no danger in the 3 members, 2 of us which have been on it from 2014, being on the party leaders forum, to make sure that it's inclusive, to make sure that the council's moving forward in the right direction, and that all voices are heard. Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor.
Councillor Lavery.
Apologies, Lord Mayor. Didn't mean to come in a second time. It's just for a point of clarity. Some members have been correctly calling, I think, the name of the forum, the Party Leaders Forum. There's a suggestion from a member there that it was called the Party Group Leaders Forum. Just to clarify what it's actually called, because I have an invite for Parties Leaders Forum tonight, and one of the items on Party Leaders Forum tonight is to change the name of Party Leaders Forum to Party Group Leaders Forum to reflect the decision taken by Sinn Féin and their good friends in the DUP to exclude minority parties and independents. So if the Chief Executive could just clarify what the name of the forum is as it stands now and as it has stood the past 8 years, just for us all, just for clarity. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor. Happy to clarify that the name is Party Leaders Forum.
Alderman Baxter.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm happy to stay as Party Leaders Forum. Leaders, group leaders is the same thing. That's dancing on the head of a pin. Yeah, look, just taking on board what Councillor Radcliffe have said and Alderman Berry. I don't think Councillor Hanlon's in this evening. I don't know if he's zooming in. But listen, you know, they said about the voices being heard in the Leaders Forum. I've given a couple of solutions there, you know, that their voices will be heard on the Leaders Forum and they can attend the Leaders Forum. You know, and we'll support that as a party. I'm not sure what others will do. That's a matter for them. But, you know, is that an option that the members there might, you know, might investigate that and look at it as a possibility to get onto the forum, you know, and rotate the membership, and then you would have two members on a 2 members on a party or grouping, or 3 members on a grouping. Like that's a real simple solution, a really simple solution. And if it's not taken seriously, well then really we'll have to say to ourselves, is it really seriously they want to be on the forum or not? Because that solves the problem in my mind, and it solves all the issues that's been brought forward. Or, as I've said, if the unions members want to join our group, they're honestly more than welcome, because I think now more than ever we do need unionists, and I think we can all agree on that.
And I'm going to call Councillor Thomas O'Hanlon, who's zooming in. So Thomas, if you just start to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. Like Alderman Berry, I'm going to refrain from my remarks because I intend to speak at length on Monday night. But I think that what has already been articulated by many, in that the Party Leaders Forum has always been about inclusion. It has always been about fairness and good governance. Yes, it's not a decision-making body, but it was a key sounding board. And some referred to COVID and the impact. That body sat numerous times every week during COVID and was a key part or way of disseminating information in and around what was happening, and that officers could sound things out with members. I would ask that all parties take the opportunity for the time ahead between now and Monday to think, to engage with each other, and to reconsider the decision that was taken. Because Councillor Nelson said that it was about key issues, which has been discussed at the Party Leaders Forum. So if they're key issues, why are they excluding some members of council from those key issues? If it's discussions, it's about nothing contentious, it's about no votes, as others have said, then why exclude? I would just take the opportunity, or ask people to take the opportunity over the coming days to reconsider their stance. It wasn't broke, it doesn't need fixed, and it has been something that has really worked very well from the start. And it was actually something that worked in the old Legacy Council as well. And I know that's quite some time ago, but I think it's something that we should consider. Just because other councils do one thing doesn't mean we have to follow. But also, what I would say is that I'm surprised at the number of people who have approached me out from in the community, and it wasn't, as some have tried to articulate it, that it's one side of a community gearing up towards another. And then whenever you try and explain what the Party Leaders Forum is about, and the question that kept coming back time and time again is, so why don't they want you on it? Are they trying to hide something? And like others tonight, all I can say is, well, look, you're just going to have to ask those who are opposed to myself, Alderman Berry and Councillor Radcliffe, from being on the forum. And I have to take the opportunity to thank colleagues from other parties who have been supportive and recognise the need for the full breadth of opinion on council and the full breadth and representation of the communities to be represented, and for their support in what we've been discussing tonight. Thank you.
Members, I have no further lights on, so I'm just going to hand over to Alderman Burns just to summarise the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And can I firstly say that you were talking there about leaks to the press. In 27 or 28 years, I have never once leaked anything to the press. That's not the way I operate. So I can assure you I didn't do it. Has been said here by everybody, it's a sounding board. It's no decision making, and we don't want that changed. Never did. It doesn't make decisions, and I'm happy with that, but it does disseminate information. And the fact that it doesn't make any decisions, I cannot see why 3 individuals cannot sit on it. The Lord Mayor sits on it. Now, I'm not talking about you, Lord Mayor, I'm talking about the position. But the Lord Mayor sits on it. They're not a group leader, not a party leader. They are a member of a party. So how do we round that one? If somebody else is sitting on it that's not a group leader, what's wrong with the 3 people sitting on it who need the information? We talked about how much it cost for this meeting tonight. How many call-ins have there been in this council where it has cost a lot more to £5,000 or £7,000 a time to have a call-in? We could have called it in, but we wouldn't do that because we wouldn't waste the money. But we're here tonight to discuss it, and which we're quite often. The Lord Mayor could have declined the meeting tonight because you could have said we're meeting on Monday night, but you didn't, and I appreciate that. But you know, we talked about then saving money by not having these 3 people on it. They blew that out of the water by saying they didn't want the money anyway. They just wanted to be included. And I think, you know, inclusivity is what it should be, so that everybody gets the meeting, the money, or the information firsthand, and that we don't duplicate officers' time. Now, we're talking about saving money. We don't duplicate officers' time by them having to talk to the other 3 individually or together. that's all I have to say, Madam Lord Mayor. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody's time for coming here tonight, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Burns. Members, there's a rescinded motion coming on Monday night. There's nothing more we can say or do in tonight's forum. I think everyone's had their say. And moving forward then under item 4, any other relevant business. I don't have any in front of me. So good night, members, and safe home. Thank you.